Okay, you all good now? All right. Everyone, my name is Tim Conard. I own TS Conard Technology Solutions. We're an IT provider. Basically what it is that the way that the technology is evolving, the way that the marketplace is evolving, a lot of companies no longer just have an internal IT team or even in just one person. Everything gets outsourced because it's a matter of economies of scale. It's a matter of affordability. We're able to take care of a whole lot more people, spread that labor around so that companies are able to be protected without having to pay for a full-time person. And before we get going here, I want you guys to ask questions, okay? Because the biggest thing that I want you guys to be able to do is have an understanding. I'm not going to teach you guys how to be IT people. What I am going to teach you as either small business owners or potential small business owners, or even just as an individual, how to protect yourself against the number one threat. And if you're not sure about what the number one threat is in cybersecurity, just pick up your phone, take a picture of yourself, and then you've got it. The end user is the biggest threat. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Who feels embarrassed when they're tricked? Pretty easy one, isn't it? Albert Einstein said that two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And he's not sure about the universe. According to purplesec.com, some form of social engineering is utilized in 90% of all cases. There was an owner of a farm implement company. He had 5 different locations, had several computers at his counters where he sold the different pieces and parts of farm implements. He went to go Google a piece of equipment. The very first result that showed up, he clicks on it. Well, the screen lights up and everything else. Hey, we're taking you over, you're hacked, all this kind of stuff. Fellow, I was going to have a joke there, but I stopped myself. Fellow was a little bit older, a little bit grumpy and everything. This daggone thing, technology. He goes to the next computer. Google's the exact same thing, exact same result. Goes on to the third computer. By this time, he's starting to do the same thing on the third computer, and by that time, his IT company's calling. Because at this point, they're thinking that they're under some kind of attack because of all the alerts that are being transferred out to the IT company, when it was just old Bob or Earl or whatever his name was, just not being smart about it. Because if you're doing something, you get the same result, you keep doing it, it's kind of the definition of stupid, isn't it? So, if you're not getting the results you're after. Security training is simple and inexpensive. How many of you feel defenseless against hackers? According to Bruce Shire, amateurs hack systems, professionals hack people. And that is an absolute true thing, because according to Verizon's study, 82% of data breaches are caused by the human element. A person clicking on something they shouldn't. How many of you all have ever done Facebook quizzes or posts? What's your favorite color? What's your dog's name? Where'd you go to high school at? Where's what street did you grow up on? All that type of thing.
You don't do that.
Please, God, do not fill those things out. What those are is that you are giving away so many secrets about how you think and different types of pieces about you that it really breaks down, and they're able to use those pieces of information to hack you. That's why you see so many people on Facebook putting out a post, hey, there's this cloned account, it's not me, and all that kind of thing. Well, they probably filled out a Facebook quiz or poll or something like that and provided all this information to the hackers. They pretty much said, here's the keys to my house, come on in anytime. Okay? So this is how social engineering can get you. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Who loves their kids? I certainly do. Uncontrolled emotions make money flow. A fellow by the name of Anarchy Ezekiel said that. The quarterly threat and trends and intelligence report from McGarry and Fish Lab shows that vishing, which is voice phishing, if you guys have ever got any of those strange phone numbers on your cell phones and whatnot from Biloxi, Mississippi or Seattle, Washington, basically all these wild calls that you're getting, most of these are for a form of voice phishing, where they're going to get you on the phone and they're going to try to trick you. Okay? And the increase of that from Q1 2021 to Q1 of 2022, that 1 year, is up 550%. Why? Because people are easy to hack. Systems, not so bad. People, really, really easy. Now, the one form of a phishing attack, the voice phishing. Who's ever filled out an emergency contact form at the hospital or for your employer in case something happens? But your mom, your spouse, your brother, your uncle, whomever it may be, your mother. And one of the things that they ask on that is, what is the relationship to that account? Let's say your mother, best friend, whatever it may be. Now, the way that hackers utilize this information is typically in a phishing type call. I had a buddy of mine, his mother was contacted because she was the emergency contact for him. Calls him up, little Johnny has been in a terrible accident. This is Hope Hospital. He needs to go into surgery immediately. However, we need $10,000 deposit to begin the surgery. What's any parent going to do? Parent's not even going to question it. Parent's going to say, please take care of my child. Please save my child. The mother gave up her credit card information immediately. $10,000 gone like that. She finds out later after her son gets off work that he's perfectly fine, and basically she just got took. But these are things that you have to be able to think about, where the threats are, how people get at you. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Who does not want to be the cause of a breach? Attack? I certainly don't. Christopher Reeve, if everybody's old enough to remember Superman, this is actually in relation to a wheelchair, somebody being in a wheelchair. And he just said, I'm glad it's not me. He said, after he got put into a wheelchair, that was what he really thought about, is that I'm glad that it wasn't me. According to IBM, as I stated earlier, 95% in their study showed that human error was the cause of the breach. It's not so much the hackers breaking into the systems and hitting into the firewalls and those types of things, but being able to hack the human, being able to do things to play on the ignorance of that end user. Because part of it is that when you see something wrong, when you recognize that there's something wrong, that's when you need to act, or sometimes not act. Don't click on it. But there's a company within about 7 miles of here, a number of years ago, that we got a call on a Monday morning. We hadn't worked with this company before, but they had called us up and basically told us that they had been breached. We go out there, go into the conference room to sit down, and it was, quite frankly, I felt really bad for the accounts payable lady. Was sitting at the end of the conference room table. Face was red, eyes were red. You can tell that she had been crying. Her hands were still shaking a little bit because she felt responsible. What had occurred the previous week, she worked Monday through Thursday. It was the end of the day on Thursday. And as I said, she's an accounts payable person. And she was in the bank's website. They did wire transfers So she was in there and working away in the bank's website. All of a sudden, it quit responding. She couldn't try to logged her out. She tried to log back in. Well, that didn't work. She tried to log back in again. Still nothing. She said, well, that's odd, but it's the end of the day, Thursday. I'll deal with this on Monday. What had occurred is that her system had been infected with what's called a keylogger. Most likely it got onto her system by her clicking on something that she shouldn't have in an email, several different things, but most likely it was probably an email. But what a keylogger does is it records every keystroke that goes into the keyboard. So as she typed in www.mybank.com and my username and my password, all that was directly transferred to the hacker. So as soon as the hacker received that information, he types in www.mybank.com, the username, the password, and he's in. Now, very first thing he does, he changes the password. That's why she got kicked out and couldn't do anything, and she couldn't log back in. But this particular bank had even a bigger flaw in their website, is that they had the ability, once logged in, to be able to change the contact information for that account. So instead of 816, whatever the phone number was, the hacker changed it to his phone number and changed the name and all that kind of stuff, because this, as I said, this company did wire transfers. And they had an agreement with the bank that any wire transfers over $25,000 required a phone call from the bank to that company for a voice verification that that wire transfer should go through. So when they initiated a $75,000 wire transfer, the bank picks up the phone and calls. But who did they call? They called the hacker. And the hacker approved the transfer. And $75,000 gone just like that. Because as soon as the way that a lot of these things work, that $75,000 goes to one account, and then immediately and automatically goes to 10 other accounts, and those go to 10 other accounts, and in just a few blinks of the eye, $75,000 broke down to a bunch of $100 Visa gift cards that you can buy on the dark web for $50. Okay? So, but no one knew this until Monday morning, when she came in, tried to log in again, couldn't log in, contacts the bank, gets control again, and finds out the $75,000 is gone. That woman sitting there trembling, she understood the gravity of what just happened. She understood that a company losing $75,000 could potentially put that company out of business. And this company had somewhere in the area of, I think, 20 to 25 employees, somewhere like that. Imagine if your actions, or in this case, inaction, was responsible for losing all those people their jobs. How does that make you feel? You know, I know that I wouldn't feel too daggone good about it. So that's why being trained, learning about all these things are so important. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Who knows what a phishing email is? You better win. According to a company called Advanced Security Experts, if it looks fishy, it's phishing. Okay? Earthweb.com stated that 47.3% of all emails sent in 2021 are phishing emails. What phishing emails is they're emails that are trying to trick you. They're trying to gain access to your accounts, to your computers, any kind of access that they can garner from you. They're going to try and get you. Okay? Well, it's kind of like if you go to a restaurant, you pay with your debit card, and then a few hours later you find out that your debit card was used for trying to buy a $1,000 TV on Amazon. Well, it turns out that the waitress just copied your card or tried to steal it or something like that. They're trying to trick you. A phishing email this is another one from local area. one of our clients was a vendor to another, and their client owed them $110,000. They typically got paid in wire transfers. But what a hacker did is they gathered up some information. They made a email address very similar to what the company's real email address was. They went on LinkedIn. They found out who the chief financial officer was of the company. They stole the logo off the company's website, put this email all together, looked all legitimate and everything else, and was able to send an email to this client of theirs, basically saying, here's our new wire transfer information. Please pay us the $110,000. Well, this company didn't question it. The logo looked good, the email looked good, the name matched the CFO that they dealt with, all these types of things. So they changed the wire transfer information, paid the $110,000. Well, our client, their vendor, sends them out, hey, your payment's late. Where's it at? It's like, well, we paid you. No, you didn't. So that company lost $110,000 by not being trained for what to look for, by not being prepared, because somebody's always trying to get you. And where all this comes about, when we were kids, how many of you were taught to look both ways before crossing the street? That's the physical world. That's what we can touch. But most people are not trained in the virtual world. Maya Angelou's quote that applies to so many things in life: do the best you can until you know better. Then when you do better, when you know better, you do better. And that's very much about cybersecurity. When you hear the term cybersecurity, most of it is all about you and how you're trained and about what you learn about. Hashedout.com says only 25% of organizations allocate 2 or more hours to formal training per year. 2 or more. Imagine, for those of you that have kids or were a kid at some point, if you only told the kids about 2 hours a year to look both ways before you cross the street, or don't talk to strangers, or don't open the door for strangers, or in my son's case, don't stick the knife in the electrical socket. If we only provided that much training, 2 hours a year to our kids, what would be happening? A whole lot of flattened kids in the road, a whole lot of other negative things happen to your kids, a whole lot of little frizzy hair from sticking the butter knife in there. But that's where the big difference is that we have not gotten to the point yet where we are valuing that training, that understanding of what happens. And there's such a threat out there of learning and what it can do to a company. Like I said on the one with the $75,000, what if it was you that didn't report that didn't recognize that, and you put that whole company and potentially all those people out of work? Now, on the flip side of that, as far as a company's responsibility, now, if somebody has a sexual harassment policy at their company, and someone continually violates that policy, most likely they're going to be terminated for cause. Now, one of the things that's eventually going to happen is that companies, even now that we have the ability to do what's called a fake phishing email, so that we're testing employees. And if you have somebody that's constantly failing it, what that person is a liability to the company. Because one wrong click of an email will take out a company way faster than anything else. Because just a quick little story about a company within 3 miles of here-ish. They were seemed like they liked ransomware, okay, because they were clicking on everything. And what happened to them, and I think they had about 40 employees, and I'm not quite sure how they kept the doors open, but they got ransomware. We remediated for them. We made recommendations. They declined those recommendations. It happened 3 more times. The 4th time, the hackers not only encrypted all their stuff, basically put locks on all the data, but they also took it all. So this company of 40-some employees has no payroll. They don't know who owes them money. They don't know who they owe money to. They can't produce W-2s for the coming year, because this, I think, happened around, what was it, October of last year or something like that? So most of the year had already been gone. Imagine the difficulty of trying to put all those types of records together, rebuild 40-some people's wages and W-2s and everything else to be able to go out there. That's basically, as the attorney was talking about earlier, it's negligent. They certainly knew better, because how many times do you have to get burned before you figure out the stove's hot? So that's where the understanding of the differences between the virtual world and the physical world is that you have to understand what that threat is and what the impact is on that. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Consider something as simple as a fire extinguisher. If you know the drill, you can avoid the fire. You know what to do when you got a little kitchen fire like that. A lot of places, there's instructions on it. Here's how you use it. And a lot of us growing up, we're taught how to use fire extinguishers. ESET, which is an antivirus company and technology company, said that shocking 68% of end users say they have never had any type of cybersecurity training. 68%. If you want to liken that to utilizing the fire extinguisher, or if you want to think about this like the kids, 68% of the kids have never been taught to look both ways for across the street. Because imagine if you lost your house and possibly your family because you never learned how to use a fire extinguisher. You didn't know something so simple to be able to take care of that. Now imagine losing your business, all your client data, even worse, your client's information that you were entrusted with. And whether it be social security numbers, driver's licenses, credit card information, any of this kind of stuff, because they're going to turn right around and utilize that information against your clients. Ooh. Security training is simple and inexpensive. Who's heard of the dark web? Yeah, stay out there. A hacker by the night that goes by the handle of Night of Love said, when you jump into the dark web, one click can put your life at stake.
That's true.
And the thing is, that's both literally and figuratively. LinkedIn is, according to LinkedIn, the dark web statistics for the United States accounted for 34.81% of dark web's daily users. Behind us was Russia, that took second place, 11.46%, and Germany at 7.116%. If you want to think about it like this, the dark web is like the Craigslist for criminals. Yes, sir?
How do you even know when you're on the dark web?
Oh,
What is it?
Chat, no. All right. Basically, what the dark web is, and no, you can't. You have to utilize a special type of router and a special type of browser to be able to access it.
I don't know either one.
That's okay.
You're not gonna fall into the.
Yeah, you're not going to fall into the dark web.
Not
I
our
fell into a lot of things, you'd be surprised.
But you have to intentionally go there, but the way the dark web is
I
set
felt
up.
like cooking 1,000 turkey legs for Rain Fest.
You may be there already.
But what the, basically you have to intentionally go there.
Okay.
But the dark web is anonymous, okay? And basically there's things move around in there, just if you wanna think about it like the criminal element. Not everything on the dark web is illegal and criminal. There's a couple, like 2 guys, but, but the, people go there for that anonymity. And the other aspect of it is you can buy anything on the dark web. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking, stolen credit cards, murder, and your password for about $2. There's really nothing that you cannot acquire on the dark web. And every bit of that, it's, if you want to think about the worst of the worst criminals, that's where business is conducted. And the thing is, that's where so much of this information that they steal ends up, is on the dark web. You can, there's a lot of places where you can go online, do a dark web search of your email address or, your information, and most likely there's gonna be something out there about you. Because, like, I think it was Target that got hacked. Everybody that used a credit card at Target, their information was out there. Hospitals are a huge target. I've got a buddy of mine that his entire business was nothing but rescuing hospitals from ransomware. Because what the information they have is so lucrative on the dark web that they're getting nailed all the time. Security training is simple and inexpensive. How many of you are tired of changing their password? Tired of doing it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what mine is.
Now, a fellow by the name of Edward A. Murphy said the probability of forgetting your password is directly proportional to the frequency of changing it. No kidding. We're constantly changing it. Yeah, it's going to be harder and harder to remember. A Google study said that 75% of Americans are frustrated by their passwords.
Yeah.
Thank you, Google. We couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of differing opinions on this, but according to the National Institutes for Standards and Technology in our government, they came out recently with the following recommendations. Okay? And again, I'm just letting you know about this. I'm not necessarily endorsing it, but if it's going to work for you, if this methodology helps you, then great. But if your password is 15 characters or more, it's not reused anywhere else. No other sites, no other systems, nothing. Just that place. And it hasn't been breached. So when you do a dark web scan, me is like, no way. It gets better.
So I could just push number 1 through 15 and have that as my password and it wouldn't get breached?
No. Because actually that is, just straight numbers like that is, I think it's in the top 5 easiest to hack. I think I've got a little thing here I'll show you here in just a moment of how quickly that is hacked. But they say to utilize passphrases instead, and I'll be touching on that here in just a moment on some of the passphrases. And avoid the exclamation mark. Yes. The exclamation mark is the most used special character, period. Why? Because it's how we think, how we do, and where's it at, Mark? Where's the exclamation point typically at?
It's at the end of the password.
Yep.
But
It's kind of like you got the magic Houdini over here, huh?
How do you know?
can you add one more thing to that?
Go ahead.
Don't start your password with a capital letter.
Oh, darn it.
Because
Yours is
everybody starts
password.
their password with a capital letter. Because you were taught in school to start
Yeah,
a sentence with a capital
capitalized,
letter.
yeah.
But
It's
see,
those teachers' fault.
but what you did was you just cut down the number of choices for the first character of your password to try to crack, to
26, yeah.
You just cut that down.
Think about this,
You know, if
social
you
engineering.
We're gonna be busy tonight, change password, change
Right?
password, change password.
If you know one of my passwords, you know everything about me.
That's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
That's very much not a good thing.
I know that one.
But if you're not doing any of those things, the National Institute of Standards and Technology says you don't need to change it if you follow all those things. Okay? Password complexity. Did I jump through to that? No, jumped across. Or I got something else out of whack here. Nope, I turned over 2 sheets.
They should let us use emojis as passwords.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start a new business.
Yes.
I'm done with barbecue.
They'll make more money too.
I would.
Okay, nothing shared or generic, okay? You don't share your passwords.
Uh-oh.
You don't use generic accounts.
You're in trouble. I know all your passwords.
And, exactly, I was just gonna ask the question, how many of you share a password with a family member or colleague? Yeah,
I know.
I
that's
know
because your husband doesn't touch the computer.
No.
A Google study said that 43% of people have shared their password with someone. Now, why is this important? And a shared password doesn't have to be verbal. How many people have seen somebody with their password post-it noted to the front of the monitor?
Me?
In Hawaii in January of 2018, the Emergency Management Office, even though that later they claimed that it was somebody that just clicked on a drop down, and because there should be a 2-man rule on this one. Created an inbound missile alert for the state of Hawaii. Basically, they were under the impression, all the alarms went off, everything went off statewide, that there was inbound missiles. Okay? And they said, well, just somebody hit the wrong drop down. Nah, I'm not behind that. But a couple days previous in the newspaper was a picture of the manager, the emergency management manager of the state of Hawaii, standing in front of his desk, and in the picture, clearly behind him, password, and listed his password right on the front of his monitor, and it went out to everybody that took the paper. And online as well, of course. So I don't think that somebody just did a drop down and turned on a inbound missile alert. Because if you could imagine, you know, because think back to Pearl Harbor and whatnot, we're not as familiar with such things. But Pearl Harbor was hit that way. And they have an inbound missile alert drill. And they lit that baby off as a real incoming situation. So, is that user error of a drop down, or somebody shared the password that was on the newspaper a couple days previous? Now, this may look a little bit goofy. I get it. But how many people know the little song, "Oh, what a beautiful morning, oh, what a beautiful day"? Well, I just added a little bit of extra in there to get a special character in there and a number, but it's still something that's very easy to remember. And it's a total of 62 characters. Who remembers song lyrics? I think pretty about everybody. And those of you who are old enough, we can remember all the song lyrics from the 80s, but we don't know why we walked into the kitchen. Okay? Why is that? It's because part of the way our brains work, it's associations. That's why so many people have trouble remembering their passwords. Because their passwords are some kind of random word vomit. You know, exclamation point, asterisk, you know, uppercase V, lowercase c, you know, something that doesn't make any sense to us. It doesn't create any type of association for us. And because of that, they're hard. So it doesn't have to be hard. Use the way that your human brain works. Because there's some of us, you know, there may be somebody that can, recite the Gettysburg Address, or some of us, not all of us.
No, I'm just sitting here, so you're saying to do that every separate for every single different thing, a different password?
Yes, however, there's a way easier way of handling that, okay? And that's by utilizing a password manager, okay? Password managers are exceedingly easy to use, because pretty much all you need to know is how to log on to your computer, you know, the password for that, and the password for your password manager, okay? 2 passwords. Everything else is handled by your password manager. And inside your password manager is basically a password generator that you can set that. I usually set mine for 23 characters, and it's got uppercase, lowercase. Talk about random word vomit, it generates it like crazy. But it doesn't matter because I don't need to remember them. I just copy, paste, whoop, there we go. There's this ridiculous password. But all I need to know is 2. And that's how you're able to get around it, and this is how you're able to keep yourself safe. Because you can know these different things like that. Yes, ma'am?
Isn't it easier to use the autofill, the save the passwords? on
Yeah,
the phone?
is that a good thing?
That kind of
No,
stuff,
not at all.
like
If you,
I wonder.
now, utilizing fingerprints is a completely different thing. But saving your passwords in your browser, you might as well just go here. Because, yeah, those are not secure, they're hacked on a regular basis. I save 0 passwords in my browsers. No way, no how would I ever recommend it, because they are not secure. If you're utilizing a password manager,
I've been hacked like not even once, and I have like the same password on everything for
Well-
the past 30 years, like on my social media and everything. I never been hacked, not even once.
there's, in our industry, we have a little saying. There's 2 different kinds of people. Those that know they've been hacked, and those that don't know that they've been hacked.
Well, I don't think I've been hacked because
And
my password is really hard to, it's complicated, and it's long too.
well, I mean,
And I don't do the quiz on Facebook.
that's probably a helpful thing. But
See you next week.
the probability that something has occurred is very high. It really is. And the thing is, it's not just that you've been hacked. So like, if you've got a LinkedIn account or a Facebook account or any kind of company that you utilized that long username and password at, and that company got hacked, they've got your password. It's not just about you yourself being hacked. Okay? It's about the information and how is that information accessed. Okay? Think about it like this. If you've got a key and say your landlord has a key to the house too, well, your key's safe in your pocket. Landlord's house got broke into and he's got all the keys. They still have access to you. Okay. So, the Equus, basically he's referring to another hack, where a lot of information was garnered about people, and even the
If you have a credit score, if there is a credit score attached to your name, your information is linked.
Yeah.
Because Equus is one of the 3 credit reporting agencies that create your FICO score. Equus got hacked, and all the information got stolen.
so it's not just about you getting hit.
You
Yeah.
mentioned a password manager.
Mhm.
Is there like a specific one you recommend, or like?
There's quite a few. We recommend Passportal
Okay.
is the one that we utilize, but there are several good ones out there. You know, and please, they're not much money, but don't use a free one. Okay?
Okay.
Spend that little bit to protect yourself. They're not a ton of money a month, but it's way better than the free ones. Yes, sir?
So on our food truck, we use a POS system called Clover. Is there a chance that it could ever be hacked? Or we
Certainly.
could have a problem with that?
If it's connected to the internet, it can be hacked. Now, part of the thing that, you've got going for you is that's pretty much only up and running when you're at the venue,
Right.
right? So that's decreasing your probability quite a bit, okay? And it also depends upon how are you connecting to the internet with that device.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but because it's a system that's paid for, are we liable for any hacks that happen?
It depends upon how that information, but when you're receiving information, as soon as you take that information, you have liability, okay? Now, for the most part, in a POS system, in a food truck, come get me. You know, you're not a target, you're not talking about
Yeah.
losing 2 million people's cards and things like
Sure.
that. And then it becomes a matter of prove it wasn't that, I lost your information and it wasn't the ice cream vendor across the way. So, you know, there's pieces of it, but even at that level, there's still liability. And as the attorney was talking about, being able to do your due diligence, so you're not neglectful.
Does a VPN protect you from anything? Cause I feel like a lot of people talk about that, like anytime you go on a YouTube video, there's a YouTuber who's like, use this VPN. Do you feel like that's worth using or having?
VPN, he's just dying of it. Mark is, one of my tier 3 engineers. I have one skill that's hiring people smarter than me. And, he makes me look like a kindergartner. So that's a great thing. But, can you keep it 4th, 5th grade over there?
Yes.
There we go. Go ahead.
The thing that a VPN gets you is it places your presence on the internet someplace other than where you are. What I mean by that is, for your internet service provider here in St. Joe, you're probably either with Suddenlink or AT&T or United Fiber, right?
T-Mobile.
Okay, T-Mobile.
Okay.
When you turn on a VPN, what it does is it takes all of your data that you send and receive to the internet and sends it through this tunnel to this undisclosed location. So that's the only thing the VPN's doing for you. Is it's just taking the place where your traffic appears to come from and placing it someplace else.
Okay, so really no protection, it's kinda just like you exist somewhere else, basically.
That's what you need if you wanna get on the dark web.
Or watch a Netflix series that's only overseas and not
Well,
here.
that's an aspect that does occur. If you have remote workers remoting into your building, into your business, absolutely you want to be able to utilize a VPN. Trying to be a little mindful of time here, but what I talked about earlier, numbers only. That 1 through 15. Well, let me just drop it down here. But instantly at 8 characters, 8 numbers, may take up to 4 days with 14. But like I was talking about, that password that I put in, oh what a beautiful morning for you and I, oh what a beautiful day. That one at 18 characters, not 16, not 62, would take 1 quadrillion years to be able to figure out, to brute force attack, okay? So, if you look at this, say that this one, 14 characters just using upper or lowercase letters mixed, 778,000 years. Now, if you're thinking like a criminal, what are you gonna do? What does all of nature do? Follow the path of least resistance, okay? So what you're gonna do, you know, if somebody's trying to rob a neighborhood and one house has got a big thick door on it with multiple locks and all this kind of thing and a pit bull out front, you're gonna go to the next house. Because that one is a whole lot harder to get into. So it's simple, a path of least resistance. You want to be able to put up as much of a barrier to prevent hackers from getting to you.
So is it totally random when if you're using like a word that ties into, the name of the site you're in, they're not looking at that?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just,
Oh yeah. Think about it. It's all about the human element. It's all about how do we trick you.
Don't use your dog's name either.
Yeah. Your dog's name.
No, I don't.
Okay.
You need to tell me that.
That's what I was gonna say.
But
I figured that.
that's exactly part of it. Security training is simple and inexpensive. How many of you heard of two-factor authentication? Okay, most of you. And you even mentioned the fingerprint. That is a form of two-factor authentication or even multi-factor authentication. Okay? Those things are absolutely certain. If you're not utilizing some form of two-factor authentication, you should be using it. At the end of the day, Jody Rell said that the goals are simple: safety and security. Now, DataProt study showed that only 26% of companies use multi-factor authentication in the United States. That's straight dumb, okay? Even on your daily stuff, you should be using some type of two-factor or multi-factor authentication.
Ours doesn't use it.
They're gonna get on it.
It's straight up.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Ours can have a whole wired too.
Yeah,
That's
it's
smart
good.
with that stuff.
The little story here called the Bob and the Hacker Harry story. I had a Microsoft 365 account, which used to be called Office 365. A lot of people have it now. But anyway, Bob, we'll call him Bob for this reason. Basically, he didn't want to have two-factor authentication on his account. It was left as optional in this company, and he didn't do it. Well, Bob eventually got hacked, and a hacker got into his account, did not change his password. Bob was at a level where he had access to a lot of different information. Also, some of the corporate documents that were on the OneDrive, he was able to access through there. And lo and behold, looky there. There's a direct deposit payment change form. What the hacker did is he took this direct deposit form, filled it all out with new banking information, submitted it to HR because it was coming from Bob's account with new payroll information. Now, Bob did not have two-factor authentication, and if anybody's ever logged into their bank or a lot of other places and you get a text message on your phone, that's a form of two-factor authentication. There's a lot of apps out there as well that will put a little ding, hey, is this you? Is this what you're doing? Okay, that's all forms of two-factor authentication. Well, Bob wasn't having it. It was too inconvenient to Bob. So, a couple weeks go by, and Bob realizes that I didn't get paid. So he contacts HR and says, hey, HR, y'all didn't pay me. Yeah, we did. Here's the form you sent in. We changed the banking information just like you told us to, and you got paid last week, and you got paid this week, and whatnot. But it's all because he wasn't protecting himself. He got owned, he lost his paycheck because he was dumb. Two-factor authentication is something that you should have in everything that you touch. Anything you log in needs to have some kind of two-factor authentication. Now, security awareness training, whether it's at your place of work or just for what you want to be able to educate yourselves on. Microsoft has some good security awareness training out there as well. There are some free ones out there, whether it be on YouTube or anything else. And as long as the training isn't telling you to give them your username and password, it's plenty good to go to do. But find something to be able to to educate yourselves. Do that due diligence, because it's you guys. It's the person at the keyboard that is the real threat in cybersecurity above anything else. It's not brute force attacks. It's not all this stuff where you got the matrix colors and all the little lines going down on it. that's a very small part of cybersecurity or of cyber attacks. Where they make the money is on you guys. You can go on the dark web and buy a ransomware kit. What are they, $54.99 right now, or they run a sale or something? But
Well, it depends which variant you want.
stop. But you go on and buy a little how-to kit and start hacking people, and it is that prevalent.
Too much to do.
But the thing is, it is big money. All right. Some of these that hit companies actually have call centers overseas. There's an 800 number that you call, and somebody answers the phone, so you can pay them to get your information back. Yes, sir.
So these people are virtually impossible to catch.
Correct. I think, I don't have this stat, I don't remember exactly where this came from, but I think it was either in 2020 or 2021, there was 12 million reported hacks, 2 arrests. So, yes, it's very, very difficult to prosecute. And that's why it's so prevalent. And also, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
You know,
it is.
when people are readily giving up all this information online, on Facebook or Snapgram or InstaChat or something like that, I like to mess those up just to play with people. But the Book of Faces, you know, all those kinds of things. But people readily give up all this information because in general, people are good. And people don't think about being a criminal or doing anything malicious. Many of us are like lambs, but the wolves are out there and they know how to get the lambs. And that's how they come after you. We don't do any kind of residential or direct offerings to, most of the companies we have are quite larger, or they're governments or whatnot, but ours is labeled TS University. But as I said, you guys can absolutely find some good training out there, and this is not a one and done. Make this something that you watch a 3-minute video on some kind of cybersecurity training every week. And if you think that's excessive, think about only telling your kids to not, to look both ways 2 hours a year. So that's everything for me. Is any other questions or anything before we close it up? I'll be here for a little bit if anybody's got any other questions. Thank you.
Oh, you're going to.